Yeah. Cold breakfast, die a hero will live to the depths, no preference. Yeah, that's a bold question. I was taught how to live, move up like Joe Jefferson. Molesting, city is mine, whole section. Old freshman, I'm clutch, I throw left which. Gold method, right now ain't nothing that's so separate. Blocks moving quick like Pro Tetris. That's lightweight. Couldn't describe truth to define fate. Billy carry the crown with a future mind state. Guard moves, I roll out. Welcome to How Billy Sees It. What's the deal? Thanks for being here. Applause for me. Oh yeah. Oh, is the speaker screen? Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh man, listen, yo, everything matters, yo. That's what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna jump right into it. Everything matters. Everything matters. That's the title, and you may wonder what I mean, but don't worry, I'm going to get into that. Get into it right now. Everything matters. Everything matters. Everything is a part of what is. Everything is. You got to kind of know that. You've got to get to know that. You've got to grapple with that. And when you really deal with what that means on a deep level, you understand that it's about you, that it comes back to you. And that's the gift in this moment, is that it comes back to you, and that your every desire and every wish and whim and every belief is true. Not just the things you desire, the things that you desire are often things that we perceive to be outside of ourselves. But beyond that, what you believe about yourself is true. And what you believe about this experience is true. What you believe about this moment, the stories we've been told, the mythologies, the identities, the politics, the narratives that we've been told, they all matter. They affect us in a profound and deep way. They affect the choices we make, the events, the things that occurred in our childhood, the memories, the lessons we hold from them, the things we take back from them, you know? It all matters. Matters. First impressions matter. Looks matter. My beard, the fact that my beard is all scruffy and things like this, it matters. Some people look at this and turn this on. Like I'm on nearly my 200th episode, I believe, and I'm really rocking it. There's so much wisdom in these episodes, and I feel so proud of what we've been able to address and discuss. Metaphysics and language and philosophy and history. We've approached journalism and improved it, you know. But there are people who turn this on and they look at my beard and they will not be able to get past that. For them, they've identified, intelligence with a kind of clean sort of look, to say many people have identified it with a certain skin colors where you can find intelligence. They've identified it with a look, a suit, a suit and a tie and some kind of thing. They've identified gender. My wife does a show. She just finished her show. She does a show which is really brilliant, does so much and covers so much ground and empowers her audience and shares her profound, lived experience and knowledge. And there are a lot of men I know who will go over there and fail to even be open to receive the kind of genius that she's laying out for people for free at this time, at the very least, on YouTube. Because they look at her and she's a beautiful woman and she speaks in flowy ways and she uses colorful language and she speaks in a kind of poetry. All of it matters. Now it doesn't matter to her, it doesn't matter to me. I get to still be myself. I still get to evolve and change and perform as I see fit and express as I do, and she does the same. Even though it all matters. The assumptions that the viewer makes matters, the assumptions that I'm making about myself matter, and we're all in this very creative and interesting dance. Very, very complex dance. That is an interplay of all of these things, all these forces. There's obvious forces, there's things that we talk about a lot, political forces, shit like this, but then there's these other elements, the internal experience that is mine and the one that is yours and how that dance plays out is what is. It is what is. When we first moved out here to Baltimore, um, it's so interesting being married to Sheba. I was we moved out here and I was telling Sheba about my anxieties, the way I was, the way I am. I mean, I'm pretty wired up. I can be wired up. More recently, thankfully, I'm a lot calmer. But I was very observant. And I've always been able to notice things, and I was always noticing about the world, notice things about myself. And when I drive, even I would notice my calm. There's times when I would have a confidence and I would make that turn. You know what I'm saying? You could wait and let the traffic come and da da da. And sometimes I'd be patient. I'd be really calm and I'd have the patience to wait. Other times I would feel this anxiety to push and go. Other times there would be no anxiety. I would just go. I would just have the confidence. I knew I would make the turn. I got it. The other guy's gonna slow. And each of these things I would notice this was about me. I'd be making the same turn. It'd be different cars, be different days, different things like this, different stuff going on. But I noticed myself. I noticed my energy as I'm making that turn onto the block over here. And that it's me. And that it matters. That matters. It tells me something about how I'm feeling at that time. There's something there. If I could pay attention, I could see other correlations with like my creativity. Once I get home now, that energy, am I excited to do something physical? Do I want to lay down? Say whatever it is. Am I creative? Am I horny? Do I want to read something? Do I want to play this video game? Like, it's all there. It's a lot of information, and the challenge is in processing it. And at some point, you have to let go of the processing. You have to let go of it. You have to let go of it. Even though it matters, you have to let go of it. You have to come back to yourself. But just like, I want to be clear that everything matters. Everything matters. All the words and the letters that we're picking up. If you're watching, cable news, even for an hour, even a couple of times, you are being introduced to a perspective about the world. You are being introduced to words of vernacular, a certain set of assumptions. Depending on which cable news you're watching, a certain set of assumptions about Russia, about Venezuela, about Mexico, about Israel. And it's not real or true. It is, these words exist, this vernacular, this framing, this reality structure will be composed together. If you watch it and you are credulous and you believe what you're watching, again, these guys are the white guys with the suits and the professionals, blah, blah, blah. They got the interviews. Oh, look at here. Let's sit down with the blah, blah. You're like, oh my gosh. Oh, wow. This is the way to talk about this. And I want to feel smart like these guys. So I will take the language and I will repeat the language and I will internalize the assumptions. And it all matters. It matters if you watch that terrible garbage stuff all day long, 7 days a week. And it certainly matters even just for a moment. It's like my uncle and my step pops used to say, watch your peer group. If you got 4 knuckleheads in your group, you are the 5th knucklehead. It matters. It doesn't matter. It doesn't not matter whether we like it or not. There's levels to this stuff. There's levels to truth. So I want to get to this thing about it matters, but I want to understand myself in it. Most important of what matters is me. And that's the thing that most gets neglected. Oftentimes we talk about things, we've been trained to talk about things because we watch cable news, we watch CNN, Fox, MSNBC. They talk about things as though it's a movie. We're watching a bunch of characters, political characters, celebrities. We're watching them and we're giving language to what they're doing. And we're not taking into account our own part of this. The words that we're using, the assumptions that we take on, the fact that we're even talking about these people in the first place speaks to us. It speaks to who we are. It's not external to me. It may feel external to me. I may feel that I'm describing a bunch of things that are external to me. I'm just describing a bunch of things that are external to me. No, but the fact that you looked over there, the fact that you're making a sentence about that relates to you. and everything matters. And so you have to take yourself into account. That's an important part of truth telling. It's an important part of journalism. Why is it an important part of truth telling and journalism? Because it's an important part of what is. And we want to know what is. We want to be in tune, in phase with what is. So nothing is just external. I'm describing myself. I want to get to know who I am so that I can have an even better understanding of what reality is. And I want to point out how fucking privileged we are in this moment, to be able to know yourself the way that we can is something that maybe our ancestors never really had the opportunity. I don't care who your ancestor was. I don't care what role they played in whatever society they were in this country or in other parts of the world. Whether it's a story of oppression or oppressed or something, or a story of success or a story of travel and survival, whatever that is, right now, I get to come on here and in a whim be able to share all these words and ideas and perspective with you, and you can do the same with me. And what I noticed a couple of years ago, as I was trying to figure out who I am, as I left my corporate career, and decided to embark on something else, I noticed as I was engaging with social media, there were certain things I would engage in happily and freely. Like I wanted to engage in Black cultural issues. I wanted to engage in other, politics, traditional Democrat, Republican, garbage politics. That felt more comfortable for me, felt safer. And I want to take into account what safety was at that time, what it meant for me, what it could be meaning for you, and how that played out. What an experience right now that I could experience myself through noting how I engage on social media, how I click and how I share, and what ideas I put out freely, cheaply, what things I create. Thinking of a post as a creation, as a sort of a short form creation. And I'm so lucky I can create in all of these different ways, but even there. So look, our ancestors, to understand themselves, they might have been in a small town or village, and they had to, everyone agrees with a set of assumptions when you're in those kinds of spaces. They had to break out and go on an odyssey, just board a boat somewhere and do a road trip, maybe join the military, go to war, something like this, to be challenged and to see something different, and to then understand themselves, to have the contrast, to understand that the world is that big, and to notice their fears and to press into them. It took all of this tremendous effort, and people did do that. But today, and I felt this acutely a couple of years ago, I did this, I observed myself, and I was able to test sort of and notice when a topic made me nervous. There was a time when talking about gender and trans stuff made me nervous. I felt like it was just too hot. People were really upset. Cancel culture and all this stuff. People are really, and I know a lot. I know a good amount actually about this. I can speak about it in a way that is respectful and true. But I just wanted to stay away from it. Okay, so I noticed that. Well, that's something to notice. It's not something to say, oh, well, that's just that's smart. Yeah, smart. Stay away from difficult stuff. No, notice who you are. I had to notice who I was. I was someone who avoided these kinds of topics. When the Palestine-Israel would come out routinely, and I have a degree in ethics and international relations, that conflict seemed to me this massive, intractable, and scary thing. And certainly in the past 2.5 years, it's been ratcheted up. The fear, the incentives against saying what we know. And I want to say that matters. It matters. If you're watching a group of people who claim to be talking about things of import, but they've all agreed that there's something over here that they can't talk about, there's a Voldemort that they can't talk about, well then that matters. It's not inconsequential. If a group of people say, oh, well, we're not going to talk about Israel, that's, we've been paid not to. they've excluded something that is very important for us to understand reality. It's the same thing, the exact same thing as, take us back to 1850s America, and a group of people come together and they form a great society and they do great. There's doctors and lawyers and teachers and politicians and religious figures and everything that a society needs, but they're also killing and raping people. They're also enslaving people and killing and raping people as well, but they don't talk about it. Let's say that was the case. Well, that matters. It's not that that doesn't matter. That lack of awareness, you need to be aware of everything and what matters, everything that is at play in your choices. If we're all making choices to protect each other's ego, and we don't address what is, that matters. If we're talking about nature, I've said about this, guys want to talk about nature, and they talk about nature in a very narrow, specific way, very Fox News, Daily Wire type of way. They talk about Charles Darwin. They talk about the battle between species. They don't talk about nature as a collective thing. So when you talk about nature in one way, where you're only talking about gazelles getting eaten by leopards, then your sense of nature is wrong. And then you end up in these chat rooms and you're arguing for survival of the fittest in the human condition as well. You're arguing for nature. You're arguing against social programs. You're arguing against unions and against government programs to support the poor, because you've attached yourself to a narrow story about what is. Everything matters. Everything is true. The full thing, the fullness of nature is true. And right there, what I'm saying, what matters is your perspective. Your belief system matters. The limits of your understanding matters. Even if you don't know about the limits of your understanding. So few of us know about the limits of the understanding. It's kind of what it means to have a limited understanding. A limited understanding, it involves not just the limits of the understanding, but of the thing. You don't understand the thing, but you don't know that you don't know. And that matters. And that's why we start with a place of humility always. We start from an understanding that we don't know what we think we know. Even if we know something, there's layers and there's depths to truth. There's levels to truth. You don't know things on the level that you fully do. And so we start with humility. And then we also, as we actually challenge ourselves towards truth, we have to learn to shed. What's actually happening is you have to shed what you think you know to come to truth. You have to shed what you think you know in order to come back to truth. Because so many of us as adults have a very clear sense that we know things about the world and about I've been around 43 years and I can tell you, I know things. There's also a lot of credibility and reputation, there's value in being someone who can claim to know. I was on Facebook, a couple of my friends were talking about politics, some guys from high school, these two black guys, and they were complaining about left activists. They were saying these activists are mad at Kamala and they're mad at the Democrats because they engage with AIPAC. AIPAC is American politics. Y'all gonna have to get over that. That's what they're saying. AIPAC is. Usually I'd reply, but I was actually in the mood where I was like, you know what, I'm not replying this. I just had this, so I'm telling you, I was gonna write this, I left it off, I didn't write a comment on this, but they concede so much. They're so attached to a certain story, a certain what is that they see in the moment. They don't understand, APAC's an organization. It's made up of people. These are people who have built something and who have dedicated years to building something that seems to work in their favor. It seems to. And the assumptions there, they concede so much. The assumptions are so powerful there, about their powerlessness. As the conversation kept going, they kept talking about how black people needed something like an APAC. But of course, they wouldn't. I don't know these people in particular, but whether or not they would endorse something like an APAC, or what that even means. Black people need something like an APAC. What did it mean exactly to play in this messy political game and to purchase zombies from Congress? That's what black people need. What's the end goal at the end of the day? You know what I mean? What are we doing? But really, what I want to point to there is when I saw that, I was so bothered because it showed the depth and every conversation that they have, the ones that I can see and the ones that I can't see, are governed by this assumption. They're governed by this confident truth. They liked each other's comment, by the way. Yes, of course, girl. Ain't nothing there. APAC ain't. It's like you reinforced each other in a world and an assumption. Now every choice you make will be a concession each time. Well, APAC's powerful, and this motherfucker is great. There's nothing we can do. We have to. And that's not the truth. And there's so many people in politics who, APAC didn't exist before it existed, and it won't exist after it stops existing. It gets APAC and ADL. They get their power through each other. They support each other. You know what I mean? Like Jonathan Greenblatt goes on CNN. CNN builds its brand as this place for intellectual discourse when it isn't, and then they bring that on, and then this is the right way to talk about things when we see it. And so the good thing is that younger people see this difference. They have a wider lens about what is possible and what is real, and so they're behaving differently. It matters. It matters not just what is, quote unquote, because APAC is, ADL is, certain assumptions are, not just those are some assumptions about the black community they are, the politics is, CNN is, Fox News is, and yet there's something bigger, and you see that's why John Mamdani won in such a fantastic fashion in the country's dopest city, right? And shocked so many people because so many people were committed to the idea that things are what they were. And they're not. That's why you saw in the debates, that's why you saw all of them go, some of y'all weren't paying attention all this time. You didn't know that this shit was like this, but you see them, they're all sort of pleading, I'm going to Israel, I'm going to support this. They don't want to talk about genocide. He won't say. They're trying to trap Mamdani. They're using really vicious tricks and Islamophobia. They're telling him he needs to visit the mayor. Did you see Eric Adams actually just went to Israel? He's got the yarmulke on. He went to the wall and prayed, and he said, quote, when I was the mayor for you, speaking to a group of Israelis in Israel. Very interesting. But that's because this is a man who he's been compromised for a very long time, right? This is what's in his head. And Cuomo had a similar thing in his head. The guy who decides to be the lawyer for Netanyahu. But that I have a very different set of things in my head. I understand. I'm grounded in peace. I'm grounded in God. I'm grounded in love. I'm grounded in the human condition. I'm grounded in truth, in human rights and equality. Grounded in a history and an understanding of the human condition. And so what I'm grounded in matters. What you are grounded in matters. You, not the conditions outside. When people speak, people don't realize, I'm gonna wrap it up after this, people don't realize that when people speak and they try to describe things in the world, you're not describing the world. You're telling us about you. You're telling us about your frame. You're telling us about your particular time and place, and your mood, and your energy, and your assumptions, right? The vernacular you pick. You're telling us about the words that are familiar to you. And that's what you're telling us. You see that? Because you matter. This is either a good thing or a bad thing. There's two sides to this. There's the truth that you matter, that you're it, that you're it. It all derives from you. It starts from you. You can't feel or organize a logic, a set of assumptions. You can't, nothing, all of these things that you're feeling and experiencing that you think are external, that it's actually you. You matter. You matter. You have to come back to understanding that. You're powerful in that way. And the shadow of that power includes a great deal of harm and potential and all of these other things that we might call harm, things that we might categorize as harm. But these are categories, these are perspectives and categories. At the end of the day, it's you. It's you. Everything matters. Everything matters. The ways that we try to separate things out. Oh, this is politics, and that's not politics. That's something else. Well, that doesn't matter. You want to downplay this. You do that because you want a simpler story. You want a comfortable story. You want to be able to continue with your comforts and do whatever you want and not be challenged to assume the fullness of what we're describing here. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, the peace that I've experienced comes from really noticing that I matter, and that and to take that on and to take on what that means. And for each of us, that'll be different. To engage with the world from a loving, active place, you know? And when I do that, when I engage with the world from a loving, active place, the world reflects that back to me. It becomes in tune with me that way. Because I'm a part of the world, because it's all one thing. And whether that feels comfortable for you, whether your mind immediately starts to logic that away, your mind immediately, what does that mean? It's all, you can't, or you really get this. If you've been further along, if you thought about these things, you might really get this. You understand? It's you. It's you. Everything matters. You matter. Be the example of love, active love, and creativity. And that's what the world will be. Trust that. Believe that. Let's read this comment. Shiva says, everything causes a resounding ripple effect. It does. A resounding ripple. Real talk. Real talk. Test it out. Test it out on something small and then see and notice. Notice what happens. Shiva says, ooh, what? That's why APAC has so much control, because dudes like that insist that it must always be. Yeah, lack of imagination, lack of awareness. Imagination, awareness. I talked about this, that you are it, and that, whatever you want, you already have, because it's all one thing. And that when you get that, you realize that what is isn't all that is. What is in the physical, what is in this sort of material thing, these assumptions, these stories that we have stories about what APAC is and what CNN is and what ADL is. You have stories about what the Republican Party is, these stories. And you operate with that, and you're limiting yourself with that, and then you have the awareness that is giving you the anxieties about what to say and where to go and who to offend and how and this and that. You've been given a logic, a story, a narrative about how these things should go and what the power arrangement is, and we've all been made small with this. And the truth is much bigger. The truth is you actually can access something much more. It's you, and you just have to test it. You have to actually notice and take a chance and trust your voice and notice that the world evolves around you very, very interestingly because it's you and everything matters, all right? Remember that. I'll see you in I'll see you in a couple, maybe tomorrow, yo. Check out See Like Sheba, my wife's podcast. She'll be on tomorrow.
It's all public, process different, this level's beyond budget.
Alright, peace.
So sudden, ghost running, flow stubborn, I wrestle my shadows and cuddle with most of them. No puppet, keep it a whole bucket. Soul cousins, ladies and hoes love it. Coaching it dope, but the most fuck it. Pole clutching, probably the goat of this real lyrical wizardry. That's a whole subject, we built on truth. I'm a legend and living the proof. Fire's lit in the booth. They wanna know how I did it all. Many moves it involved, of course. But you could tell them I'm like that. Yeah. I'm like that, yeah. Like that, huh? I'm like that,